Hi, it's Mr. eTutor here again, your mystery tutor at mysterytutor.com, and welcome to video module 1-8. This video module is on one class of standards on the SAT. We've already seen in an earlier module how standards are the entire key to beating the test quickly and easily. Well, the major type of standard that we'll be concerned with is going to be discussed in this video, and those are the standards of question design. The other type of standardization has to do with the way the test is scored. We'll discuss that in another module. Every single aspect of the SAT's design is standardized. There is, I'm sure of this, a list somewhere in the College Board of all the specific attributes that every question of a particular type must have. We know this list exists because if you look at all of the questions of a particular question type, you'll begin to notice right away certain things about them are always exactly the same. Now, some of these question design standards are extremely obvious. For example, there will always be 10 sections on every SAT, and one of those sections will always be not counted towards your score. Things like that are very, very obvious. Almost anybody can see them who thinks about the test, even for a moment. Some standards are a little bit less obvious. Say, for example, when you're looking at sentence completion questions, all of the answer choices for a particular blank will always be the same part of speech. Now, this isn't anything the College Board comes forward and actually tells you. But if you pay attention and you look at the questions for a long enough time, as I have, you start to notice it. So there are some things like that, not clearly spelled out by anybody, but fairly obvious if you look. Then at the other end of the spectrum, we have some standards that are extremely, extremely not obvious to anyone. For example, on the writing multiple choice questions on a particular question type, the answers can be predicted very reliably if we actually count the letters in some of the words in the answer choices. Now that's absurd. Why would anybody design a test that can do that? Who knows, but they did. Of course, we'll go into all of those different standards I just mentioned and many, many more in the coming videos, but I wanted to give you sort of a taste of the types of things we'll be discussing. Now, most students who go in to take the SAT never think at all about these standards. They never realize that knowing the standards is basically the same thing as having a copy of the test before you go in. Think about it like this. Every single standard on the SAT that you're aware of is a weapon in your arsenal. And the more of them you have, the better of a competitor you're going to be. Another important thing about the SAT is that the standards cannot change over time. We've already discussed in an earlier module the fact that the College Board exists to keep the SAT the same every single time it's given. If we identify a standard that has appeared reliably on every single past test, it cannot fail to appear on a future test. Remember, the SAT is sort of locked into its own format. Unless they make a major change and announce that change in newspapers and spend years building up to it and preparing everyone for it, unless they make a change like that, like when they changed from a 1600-point format to a 2400-point format, they cannot make any smaller changes. So, the things that we identify here for you to use on the current format of the test will absolutely, I promise you, be available when you take the test. Remember, one more time, it's all about standards. It all comes down to knowing how the test is designed. And the more of those obscure standards you can be aware of, the easier you're going to find the test to be. Focus on the standards if you want to beat the test. It's not about memorizing anything. It's not about cramming formulas or vocabulary into your brain. It is entirely about learning how to exploit standards. By the way, I know I say this maybe 800 times, but the only way that you can learn to work with real standards is to use real SAT questions actually written by the College Board. And the only printed source for those in the entire universe is this book. Remember, third-party test preparation centers, other companies, they don't know what those standards are. They do not prepare questions according to the same guidelines that the real questions are prepared. If you want to do your best on the test, you must use real questions. You must listen to qualified advice about how to destroy those questions. It's very important. So, thanks very much. That wasn't so bad, was it? That's one more module down. Go on to the next one, and remember, it's easier than you think.